Welcome, everyone, to the second weekend of the 2021 Spring Rights Literary Festival. We have more events. We have an event after this, and we have more events on Saturday and Sunday. Spring Rights is a program of the Community Arts Partnership of Tompkins County, also known as CAP, and I am Robin Schwartz, CAP's Program and Grant Director. The fabulous Mickey Quinn, local event producer, is on the call with us, helping us with technical stuff. She is an MC, producer, performer, sometimes visual artist, and an all-the-time instigator of merriment. All Spring Rights events from May 5th to the 16th are being taped, and the videos will be up at springrights.org very soon. And when I put the videos up, I'll basically email you all again to say that they're there. So if you missed any events, you can watch them. Tonight, this Zoom link that you're on is for the event that's right now, Thursday's writing group readings. It is also the same link for a 7:10 event group reading on the theme of social justice. There'll be a little bit of a break in between, but you can stay on the call, leave, come back, whatever you wish. Some housekeeping. Everyone put themselves on mute right now, and please stay on mute throughout the event. Please use the chat heavily. I love the chat. I mean, especially since we're all on mute. The chat is where we see comments and questions, and where you tell the writers how much you love them, ask questions. It lets us see that everyone is engaged. So please use the chat. I want to thank our wonderful Spring Rights sponsors, Ithaca College, Wegmans, M&T Bank, CFCU Community Credit Union, the Odyssey Bookstore, and the Ithaca Marriott. We also receive support from New York State Council on the Arts, and Poets and Writers helps us pay our participating writers. Although this festival is free, all of our programs are free, actually. We always ask for donations. So if you feel moved to donate any amount to this awesome Spring Rights Literary Festival, I will put the link in the chat along with our CAP website link and the Spring Rights schedule link. I also want to ask people to turn off their phones or mute their phones. Actually, everyone's on mute already. So, and we begin with tonight's first event, the Thursday's Read, and we'll begin with Yvonne Fisher. Hi, Yvonne. Hi. Yvonne is a writer, performer, visual artist, and psychotherapist. She has been published in various journals and anthologies. She has written and performed My Viennese Mother and my wedding performance piece in Ithaca, regionally, and in New York City, and at Spring Rights. And I turn the mic over to Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. First, I want to just thank Robin and Megan and Mickey and the Community Arts Partnership, Spring Rights, and all of you who Zoomed in. Thank you so much. Our Thursday writing group has been meeting for over 20 years. Not all of us, but many of us and some of us. We started with Z Zahava as our mentor, teacher, coach, and inspiration. And we wrote with her for years. And then after she retired, we just kept going. This group has sustained us for all these years. And there's so much trust and mutual respect and deep listening. We honor each other with our writing. It's kind of a love thing, really. If you want to know more about each individual writer, you can look up our bios on the Spring Rights info. So I'm just going to read this piece I wrote 2 months ago. And already it seems so dated because everything keeps changing all the time. It's called A Year Ago. Okay. A year ago, flying back from Lake Worth, Florida. A year ago in the sun with color-drenched cottages and voluptuous flowers everywhere. A year ago, walking across the bridge to the beach, to the ocean. A year ago, calling Andy every day in Ithaca, and she would say to me, "It's bad. It's getting bad. Everything is closing down. It's scary and dangerous. We don't know what will happen." And I would say to her, "No, not here in Florida. The sun is shining, everybody's cool. I bicycle around, we get homemade smoothies. Nothing's happening. Maybe you're exaggerating. A year ago, I flew back home. Everyone at the airport looked strange, like in a horror movie, just before the evil killer jumps out to attack. The flight attendant was coughing. I took a step back. I wiped down my tray table. I didn't touch the peanuts. A year ago, none of us could imagine. We didn't know what to expect. It was surreal. I came home to cold days and everything shutting down. How dangerous is this? Are we all going to die? What is when? Who could say? How is it even a year ago? Back home, working in my office, a client ate a banana and threw away the peel. After he left, I sprayed the couch and the garbage can with disinfectant. Then I sprayed the whole office, and then I sprayed myself. A year ago, a colleague asked me to go to lunch, and I said, maybe we shouldn't be going to a restaurant. And she said, we have to live our lives. And I said, do we? Can we? We don't know yet. We don't know what this is yet. We didn't know that more than 500,000 people would die in this country alone in a year, much more. How could we ever imagine such a thing? What do we know now that we didn't know then? And what don't we know that we still have to learn? Are we living our lives as best we can? Are we moving forward? Do we know what to do? Are we muddling through? Do we all have collective grief and trauma? How do we go from here? A year ago, we stepped inside, we slowed way down, we played guitar, we cooked all our meals, we danced around the house, we bought more masks, we tried to learn French or Spanish, we played Sudoku, we brought food to each other, we stayed 10 feet apart, we worked online, we studied online, reached out online, we walked the same walks, we played with the cat, we cuddled with the dog, we kept each other's spirits up, we cried in our soup, we watched British crime series again and again and again. We grieved together, we grieved alone, we met on Zoom and we wrote together. A year ago, we fought against domestic fascists. We fought for democracy. We voted however we could. We changed the government. We rose up and we changed the government. We wondered when and how and what. We shut down. We went on. We helped each other. We dreamed in color. We marched in the streets. We shouted for social justice. A year ago, the earth got cleaner without us, less polluted, quieter without us. The animals roamed the streets freer and safer without us. A year ago, we lost loved ones. We lost so many, our hearts broken. A year ago, we did everything. We did nothing. We went nowhere. And now, a year later, we take a step outside. Some of us vaccinated. Some of us, a small step, the lucky ones, a tiny step outside. Spring is here. Flowers are blooming. We put on our masks and we go out into the shiny, beautiful world. Thank you so much. Next up is Stacey Murphy.
Thanks, Yvonne. Hello, everybody. As she said, I'm Stacey Murphy, and gosh, so excited to be here tonight. And I'm going to read a couple of poems for you. I just had a new collection come out. It's called Old Stones Understand. Ooh, very excited. This is my first poetry collection ever. And Yvonne mentioned how we all got started writing with Z, and I kind of feel like I need to add a special thanks to her, because without her encouragement over the years and sort of prodding to put this together, I don't think I ever would have done this. And I'm very grateful. Oh, and so the three poems I'm going to read tonight that are in this book all got their start in a writing group session at some point over the last few years. And the first one is called chromesthesia. What if our voices came out in color? Would my murmured first good morning be a mud of flinty brown and moss green, giving way to a grayish mist after the first mile of a run? And then at the end of 3 miles, would those same words, good morning, show against the sunlit trees as a gold-flecked chartreuse as I call them out to the man and his dogs passing while I stretch by the side of the path? Would we see avocado in the stories of cab drivers? Hear the neon orange and banana and the shouts of kids tossing a football at the bus stop? Would the words of a barista placing a mug on the coffee bar, the words Americano Grande, come out as sable brown or as a fluttering but dirty red, white, and blue? Meanwhile, in the booth in the corner, would we see a peach glitter haze that surrounds a mother and toddler as she reads him a tale about a bear and a piglet who are best friends in the forest of a little boy's stuffed menagerie? A collection much like his own pile of familiars at home, where he will prattle in a language nonsensical to all but his mother and father. And the penguins will answer in the color of morning ice. Dinosaurs answer in swamp. An ape who chortles back in vine green. The cats who purr back in mischief purple. Doggies who pant agreeably in joyful red. Bears who grumble in the brightest burnt sienna, and the narwhal who responds in rhyming, shimmering turquoise. So it came after we wrote that, we found out that chromesthesia is an actual thing. It actually means that you can hear, you can hear in color and things like that. There's a few different phenomena that can happen in people's brains that mix the senses up. And I didn't even know that before I wrote that. So that's why it was named that. The next one is called auditory hallucination. Willow at the edge of the marsh wiggles her toe roots in the cold mud as the sweet racket of thousands of peepers washes through her branchy fingers, and the continuous trilling gently coaxes the bark from her bud ends and beginnings to a green chorus. At long last, we have made it. You are safe to grow again. It's kind of starting to feel like we're a little safe to grow again too, as Yvonne was mentioning. And so for my last poem, I chose this one. It's called Leaves Let Go. It is not the way of leaves to care about how they fall. It doesn't matter whether there are heavy thunder-filled clouds overhead or miles of bright blue sunshine. A leaf doesn't cry out in pain if a harsh wind tugs it from its twig, nor does it giggle with mischief if it manages to break free on its own. A leaf doesn't fret over which is better, to swoop down in a wild, swirling canopy, a rustling riot of yellow magic with hundreds of others, or to flutter demurely to the ground in a quiet, private moment. No leaf even considers holding on, resisting its destiny, its part in the inevitable pattern. For the leaf, simply letting go is the thing. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Barbara Anger. Barbara Anger, come on down.
Hi. So I'm going to read a piece called My Garden. It's still spring, and I thought it would be a good one. It was spring, and the second daughter, that's me, decided it was time for planting. She raked withered leaves aside and found her mother in the dirt wedged between two rocks. Her mother was the size of a tulip bulb, small enough to hold in her hand. She held her mother close to her breath, The daughter blinked several times. She was surprised to see her mother. She had been dead for 53 years. She wondered now what her mother would say. She might say, "Don't malign me," or worse, romanticize me. Of course, you probably have already. She might say, "Look for laughter," and get off your butt, go deep, and follow your dreams before it's too late. What could second daughter do with her mother? She couldn't just throw her aside with the pile of rocks she had dug out. It didn't seem right to throw her in the compost. The daughter's trowel was too small to dig a proper grave 6 feet under. Actually, her mother already had a grave at Forest Lawn on Long Island. She couldn't wear her around her neck as a talisman or a piece of jewelry. It would pull too hard on her neck and give her a headache. Anyway, she didn't want other people asking her where she got that necklace, saying, "It's so unique. What does it mean?" Her mother was pointing at her daughter like an arrow, and this reminded her that her mother had often said, "I am 1/8 Indian." Oops. In this day and time, her daughter would say Indigenous or Native American, but then they still said Indian. When daughter looked up her genealogy, she figured her mother was actually 1/16 Indian. So the daughter realized that she was probably just 1/32nd, or was it 1/64th Indian? And she remembered that some people call Indians dumb. What did she know about family trees? Her mother was her grandfather's first daughter. He said her mother was Cherokee, but that's what people say when they don't know what tribe they're descended from. Or perhaps it was just a family story that had been passed down through the ages to make them feel better about being invaders. But second daughter was smart, and her mother was smart. So she did what any good daughter would do. She released her mother's balled up and twisted arms and legs, laid her mother out, spreading her fingers and toes so she could luxuriate in the soil. She placed dirt and some of the decayed leaves on top of her. The daughter had planted her in the middle of her garden among other flowers. In the summer, her mother grew tall and as fast as a weed, facing the south and laying a shadow to the north. Each summer, her mother would shoot up with the most vibrant colors. In the winter, her mother would sleep. In the spring, she would wake revived. When her second daughter, that's me, tended her garden, this plant of her mother was a reminder that there is beauty to be found in what springs from the earth. And I brought a picture of my mother, my sister, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother. So I thought they should watch over me. And now I am going to introduce Annie Wexler, our wonderful traveler who entertains us of places that we haven't gone to and wish we could.
Thank you, Barbara. I'm going to read 2 vignettes based on my annual trips to France to visit my husband's family. It's from a short collection I have called This is France After All. The first one is called Picnic on the Train. On a beautiful sunny morning, Tony and I and his cousin Catherine leave Paris by train for the Normandy coast, where Tony's ancestors have lived for more than 500 years. Chugging along, we pass through the ugly Paris suburbs with their tall gray apartment buildings and emerge an hour later into the large province of Normandy. We are still 3 hours from our destination, but cute little stone houses begin to appear along the railway line, each with a tiny vegetable garden where old men in berets till the soil and prepare for the spring planting. Apple orchards in full flower come into view, their scent filling the train. Tony and Kathleen shout together, Calvados, imagining the delicious apple liqueur for which Normandy is famous. The countryside rolls peacefully by, and soon we see them, the cows, the amazing Normandy cows with their large brown and white spots, each one seeming to flash a neon sign on its rump that says, Camembert. I doze in my seat and wake up to see Kathleen unpack the picnic she has put together in a large straw bag for our lunch. We're going to have a real French lunch, she tells me in French. This announcement does not cheer me up. She pulls out a small red and white checkered tablecloth and puts it on the pull-down table. We start with crackers and rillettes, a kind of pâté made from pork fat, minced pieces of pork, and more pork fat. Definitely not kosher. Then comes what I call the double sin sandwich, the jambon beurre, a favorite in France, ham with butter on a baguette. She knows I'm a vegetarian, but after 10 years, this still seems to have no meaning to anyone in the French family. Well, I'm starving, and I didn't have time to make anything before I left, so I nibble as best I can. The salty crackers mask the taste of the pâté a bit, so I try that. The baguette with the butter is quite edible, as long as I make a discreet pile of the ham off to the side. I feel like I'm 6 years old again. My mother saying, you just have to taste those peas, and me hiding them under my plate. Now the cheese course, says Kathleen proudly, digging even deeper into her straw bag. She pulls out a large piece of oozy, runny, smelly cheese, which she and Tony ooh and ah over. I begin to wonder if I belong in France at all. And now dessert, says Kathleen. Finally, something I can really enjoy. My favorite pastry, the religieuse, translated as the nun. A kind of cream puff with a fat round body and a small cream puff head drizzled with chocolate. With every course, Kathleen pours hefty glasses of red wine from a battered old army canteen. We toast, we drink. The rest of the trip goes by in a delightful blur. This is France, after all. My second piece is called The Unisex Bathroom. When you think of the words unisex bathroom in English, what does your mind conjure up? A door with two little figures, a man and a woman. You open the door, go in, lock the door, and sit there alone. Not in France. My first time in a unisex bathroom was like this. I finish my meal in a Paris restaurant and go down the dark stairs, following the signs, toilette. There are two doors, no indication for men or women. I go in the first door and see a large urinal on the wall, obviously in heavy use from the smell. There's a small stall in the back. Well, obviously I've gone into the men's room by mistake. So I try the other door. Same arrangement. Okay, I'm not a princess. I can pee in the same room as a smelly urinal, as long as there are no men in there with me. I'll just lock the door and give it a try. I search for the lock, nothing doing. You can lock yourself into the little stall in the back, but not into the bathroom. I open the door and peer out into the hall. No one. I look up the flight of stairs and listen for footsteps. All clear. I dash into the little stall, lock the door, and do what I have to do as quickly as possible. But as I start to pull up my pants, I hear the door open. Footsteps thump in. The guy sounds big, and he's panting from running down the stairs. I stand there, afraid to make a sound. But the monsieur has no such modesty. I can see his feet under the stall door. He positions himself. I hear him struggling with his stuck zipper. A moment of silence while he tries to find it. Then a powerful flow of urine splashing loudly onto the sides. Meanwhile, I'm paralyzed and claustrophobic in my little stall. I have to get out. I make a run for it, but there he is, all zipped up and graciously offering me the sink. Après-vous, he says. I give him a weak merci. I can't let him think I'm the type who doesn't wash her hands. So I do, and then he does, and then I towel off, and then he does. He holds the door for me, walks up the stairs behind me, a bit too closely, it feels, but after all, we have shared this moment of intimacy. Finally, I'm back at my table. The others are engrossed in conversation. I can't say a word, of course, or they'll think I'm crazy, or worse yet, an American. So I have another glass of wine. This is France, after all. And now I have the pleasure to introduce Saskya van Nouhuys.
Thank you. I'm going to read a piece that I wrote in March 2020. I think it was sort of as a kind of reaction to all the chaos of the beginning of the pandemic. It's called Walk, Don't Run. I grew up swimming. From before I could walk, I was in the water, starting at the beach where I sat on the flat, damp sand at the far reach of the waves. One rises far away in the blue-green. It approaches faster and faster, and then slows to a broad tongue as it reaches the shore. And it moves up the slope of sand and over my bare, brown toddler legs and stops. Then it falls backwards, diminished, as another mounts behind it and another behind that. Later, reaching up to the hand of an adult, I walk further in, to where the waves break around my knees, then waist, then breast, and splash onto my face, surprising me. After I learned to swim, I went past the breaking waves to where the water mounds up and flattens as they go by. Floating on my back, I listen to the gulls calling in the air between me and the clouds. A wave rises and passes under me, and another, and another, and another. Then I swim into the transition point where the wave reaches high above the plane of the water. I take position at a shallow angle to the wave and I move forward just before it breaks. White spreads along it as the top starts to turn under and roll forward. If I'm lucky, the wave takes me up and I glide diagonally toward shore. When the top of the wave curls all the way down to the flat surface of water, it pushes me under. As we move toward the beach, I bring my head up to breathe, disoriented, and am pulled back down. I land dizzy. My bathing suit is twisted and heavy with pockets of sand. After standing in the shallow water to catch my breath, I swim out again, diving under the incoming waves to get past them. The sand rinses from my eyes and hair. Once out, I relax for a few minutes, floating, before again watching the approaching rising water for the next wave to take me. By that age, I no longer live near a beach, so I mostly make do with swimming pools. I teach swimming and diving lessons. I work as a lifeguard. Sometimes, sitting high in the lifeguard chair, I'm busy. On a hot afternoon in the summer, the pool is full of kids, in the water and running on the wet pavement. I take up the cold metal whistle hanging on a cord around my neck and blow into it. The sound breaks the moment, at least for some. I let the whistle fall from my mouth and I yell, "Walk, don't run." Then I scan the pool, checking which kids are in line for the diving board and keeping tabs on who can swim and who can't. Then I look at the timid swimmers walking in the shallow end. They weakly splash one another, giggling self-consciously. I'm not worried about them. Next, I look around the edges of the pool at the people clinging to the walls, singly or in small clusters. Some of those chat in earnest conversation. They smile or laugh, and I'm not worried about them either. Others are huddled conspiratorially. Dangling from the rim of the gutter like spiders, their heads move quickly, assessing the surroundings. Probably they, like me, are energized by the relative freedom of the cool water to do dangerous things. It's them I watch, ready for what might fruit from their scheming. Okay, and I would like to introduce our next reader, who's Mara Alper.
Thank you. I'm going to read 4 short pieces, which I wrote in the last few months. They're all different moods, different settings. First one, as some of you know, I love to travel, so it's about that. My plane left in 3 hours, but I still wasn't packed. What do you take when you don't know where you're going? As little as possible. I took 13 flights, slept in 9 beds in 3 months, prayed to the goddess who flies on a swan to keep me airborne across oceans, continents, storms. She did. The smallest plane seated 6, flew over a slumbering volcano, landed on a dirt road that was the airstrip. We camped in the small village, offered chocolate, tobacco, ribbons, prayed to ancient gods, accepted their sacred plant, dreamed in vibrant colors, but it wasn't a dream. It was a powerful ceremony, with lowing cows and bleating sheep honored and praised with dance and chant before their revered sacrifice and their last breath breathed in by the shaman. We sat beside the shaman's wife and tied bright ribbons around white candles that would bless the animals, give thanks for their lives that help the people live. Devotion animated every motion. Eagle-feathered hats, beaded bowls, woven necklaces, embroidered clothes, carefully arrayed in red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet splendor. Creations with purpose, art as offerings. Yes to all that's possible. Transforming tangled weeds into bright peonies. Yes to all that's hidden, violets under leaves, my shame when I'm lonely. Shame is tentacled, a wily beast. Vanquish one limb and more spring forth, rolling, writhing, squelch all light, till I sing, be still, all that's done is over. You are freer than you know. If I claim my shame, will I set it free, weeding the garden that is me. And this is in the to be continued category. I am, I was. Today I begin. This is an act of love for my dear cousin Jessie, who loves me like a mother, and I love her like a daughter. It's for my dear sister Glenna, who became a good friend late in our lives. It's for my sweet cousin Sandy, who will be here to help. I will gather together all the things that mattered. 1-4-850-607-592-5729, 1947-420310, all in one easy folder to find. The safe deposit key, bank name, savings account, checking account, pension plans, wills, won'ts. Make it easier for everyone. Accept all that was and will be, a gift to myself and to them. Yesterday, I imagined my family sitting on my couch and chairs, talking about me with great love and appreciation. I listened carefully, wanted to offer them this kindness. Not easy accepting life is finite, yet true, always hard to accept. Yet it's already started, gathering my life like a bouquet of my decades. Puppets, poetry, art and dance, dreams and love, journeys toward unexpected beauty, sacred caves, deep rivers, jungle mountains. Who I am, who I was, who I will be, tender spirit dancing free. And last, how to love the world. Wildly, completely, arms wide open, lips upcurled, tongue unfurled, wind-blown hair. How to love the world. Tenderly, openly, leaping across voids, across chasms, across misunderstanding. Wild dreams, deep secrets, old mysteries, revealed, reviled, revered, here in my bosom, my loins, my gut, my smallest toe. How to love the world with all my heart, my soul wide open, with strength enough to face the truth of lying, cheating, depleting, defeating, defying, decrying, declaiming, exclaiming, here I am here. How to love the world, shout loud and clear, come and take me, I am yours. And now I present Aino Waller, who is coming to us from Finland. We have the pleasure of her being with us a year ago. She's with us in person, and this past year on Zoom. So here is Aino.
You're muted. I know you're muted.
I know.
Got it.
You're muted. Okay. You're muted.
Aino is coming on video, so Saskya is the one who has the sound control.
She's not muted now. Are you not hearing her?
No, we're not hearing.
Yeah, we're not
There's
hearing
no
her.
sound.
Maybe
Okay.
if you took your headphones off, would that help?
I think so.
No, unplug it.
Yeah, it's unplugged.
Making me
Do you hear her?
expect freshly baked bun cakes and cookies.
There she is.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start her over.
Toys and dog-eared children's books.
Okay, here's Aino.
Okay, great.
Mine
No.
seconds to cross North Aurora Street. I found this out when I was walking in town at night and was caught in a sudden skyfall. Aimlessly fleeing the downpour, I dashed over the street and ducked into St. Paul's. Church sale, the sign said, making me expect freshly baked bun cakes and cookies. Inside, I was instead surrounded by a haunting of old toys and dog-eared children's books that stared at me in silence. Tin soldiers who had long since left the battlefield, toy cars with nowhere to go, and clothless Barbie dolls with shiny nylon hair. And I couldn't help thinking that discarded dolls cease to have names. Their very personalities must cease to be. Homeless, they grow back into their soulless, wooden or plastic selves, the stripping away of names, solidifying their being dead things after all. I climbed up to the second floor that seemed to be dedicated to glassware and china. Trinkets and knickknacks were mixed with vases and antique kitchenware. There were thin aluminum tart pans and slightly rusted cookie cutters, wooden rolling pins, glass jars, and checkered tin boxes. Some of the nicer things were still in their packages, open just enough for us to see what was inside. In mint condition and surely never used. A rice china set with painted blue flowers. A gift, kept in its original box, still wrapped in cellophane. A red terracotta pot for slow Sunday roasts. Lid bound to pot with Christmas red ribbon. Along the wall was a small table crammed with souvenirs. I read the names of the places where hopeful hands had picked up miniature porcelain masks and flags and stringed copper bells to bring back home. Venice, Tokyo, Liechtenstein, New York, Moscow, Cape Town. But souvenirs without a traveler are useless. Bound to the stereotypes they represent, they can teach us nothing new and are thus mere reminders of the fact that someone went someplace. In the next room, I quickly moved past the sunken corduroy-clad sofas and odd office chairs and descended towards the church itself, where I could see scarves and dresses and hats strewn along lacquered bench backs. It was then I started to feel affected, looking at the fabrics more closely, pushing back the inevitable thought that each scarf I held used to be wrapped around someone's neck and warmed their skin, that each jacket had hung in a hallway once. It was then I wanted to turn back, wanted to unsee the belts with one stretched hole and the gloves that had taken on the shape of hands that once wore them. I wanted to be back on the street in the rain, aloof, alive, unaffected. But it was too late. As I hesitated, the center aisle guided my gaze towards the altar, upon which towered a heap of old shoes. There was leather footwear and canvas sneakers, lace-up shoes and strap shoes, boots and high-heeled sandals and tennis shoes, men's and women's shoes, small and large shoes, even shoes for infants, so small they could easily fit right into your pocket. A pile of shoes left behind. I knew what it meant in an instant, and an unexpected sadness tightened my chest, reminding me that each heart resides in a cage made of bone. I stood there, not wet from the rain, and yet utterly unsheltered from the world as well as from myself. And suddenly I was just a step away from all the heartbreak and loss of the past that we desperately flee, but hope to always remember. It clings to us like the shadows that follow us all our lives, or like the child who clings to her mother's hand before he is, again and again, in a horrible blink of an eye, ripped away from her on a train platform in 1944.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our next reader, who's also on video, Rob Sullivan. And so I'm going to share my screen again. Okay.
Hi, my name is Rob Sullivan, and I'm very happy to be here today, even though it may be recorded and not live virtually. But I want to thank first the Community Arts Partnership and especially Robin Swartz and her whole staff for all they've done to get this going year after year. And I also want to say that I'm very, very honored to read with everybody from the Thursday morning group. They so inspire me and so encourage me over the years. I'm going to read from some works that I've done in the past year or so with the group, and then I'll do one from my book, Postscripts, which I came out with about 1.5 years ago. So that's available locally at Buffalo Street Books or on Amazon. But here's some from the group. Joy of cooking. Start with onions and garlic. All will then be well. Search cupboards and refrigerator. No choice is wrong. Some more tasty than others. Vary grains and beans. Let the seasoning be the reason to accent flavors you savor. Another, it's for you. A dead man's cell phone rang out on the boulevard of lost dreams. A homeless woman picked it up and answered. She became good friends, almost family, with the lost child calling from the road. And during this pandemic year, I was able to do a lot of things on Zoom. And one was I got to go to a bar mitzvah that I might not have gotten to. And this is called Sam Became a Man. Sam became a man Saturday in the Hudson Valley. My wife Nancy and I were in attendance through the wonders of Zoom land. Yes, our virtual selves bore witness with over 100 friends, family, and assorted rabbis. Sam chanted from the Torah with the voice of an angel. He had practiced and studied his Hebrew texts even in COVID times, even waiting on his hobbled mom, even being a big brother to his older brother, Benjamin. Sam's reading was on Cain and Abel, and he spoke of the sin of jealousy very astutely for a 13-year-old. Sam gave a great gift to me with an invitation to be a steward of the earth, as he is with other river keepers. Yes, Pete Seeger's beloved cause to clean the Hudson River. Sam walks his family dog each day, taking a garbage bag along to collect trash that others left behind. He challenged us all to take 50. They're small. So Nancy and I took a garbage bag down the road without a dog, and that made all the difference, thanks to Sam, who became a man on Saturday. Local people may remember our Grassroots Festival, which would have had its 30th year, but it was virtual this year, and we'll come again. This is called Dance Tent. What is so rare as a day of June? Well, a July night comes to mind. The band plays in the pocket while a huge dance floor gets their groove on. And for a while, all that keeps us apart melts down like 1,000 beads of sweat, keeping every cat and kitty cooler than a cucumber, fresh from the icebox. Blue skies smiling on me, and I can't keep but grin, knowing that somewhere, somehow, someone loves me. Enough to part the clouds, if only sometime, some way, I can look up and believe it. And on a similar theme from my book, Postscripts, because tonight I dance. Born with the heart of a dancer, I live for those 3 or 4 hours spent in bliss on the floor, moving in time to a wealth of music. Work could be hard, tempers tested, hours dragged, lines relentless. One thought made short lunches and non-existent breaks bearable. No matter what came at me, even if I had to work late, it would all work out, because tonight I dance. And happily, the reason I'm not with you this week is I'm out dancing. So thank you very much.
Okay, that's it.
So does anyone have any questions? We want to do a Q&A now, right?
Sure, let's do it.
So to get the ball rolling, because I notice people are often shy about being the first one to ask a question. Do you guys have any questions for each other? Oh, here's a question.
Good.
You're all in the same group. Mickey asked that. I know that you're all in the same group. How's the process different during this past year? Obviously, there's no snacks. And also, how does it benefit you? How has it benefited you this past year?
Well, personally, I looked forward to Thursday mornings because I felt like I was connecting with people I really cared about, who I knew cared about me, and their work was always very exciting. It took me out of myself, which was great, because a lot of this time being isolated, I was in my head. So it was nice to get out of myself and hear what other people are thinking and writing and doing.
I'd like to say also that our process, which was actually very similar to when we were meeting in person, was that we would have a prompt or several prompts, and then we would write for 45 minutes to an hour, and then we would read for an hour. And that continued, and that was able to keep going. But so Z used to do all the prompts, but then when she was gone, we each take turns now giving prompts to each other. So it's always a different kind of energy depending on who's giving the prompts and what the prompts are. And then that person is in charge of saying, okay, you read next, you read next, you read next.
Do you do critiques of each other?
Feedback.
Feedback. Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah.
Feedback.
We don't
Yeah.
critique, but we encourage and support and
It's all very fast. So since it's that we're just writing for a short period of time and sharing whatever is raw right there in the moment, no one expects anything really polished.
Yeah.
But the things people come up with are just brilliant and amazing. I don't know if it's in spite of that or because of that for some people, but the things people come up with sometimes come out seeming very complete. I mean, the Sam Became a Man poem. I remember when Rob wrote that, and listening to it again now, it didn't sound like he changed much or polished it much at all. It's kind of amazing.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to also mention, I can't forget to mention that Rob, who's in Brooklyn at the moment, tuned in for tonight, and Susan Lesser, who's in our group, is here tonight listening.
Right.
And hi, Susan. And there's other people too who are in and out and who we had written with before, but they just didn't want to be part of the actual reading tonight. But we love them all, and it's been a nice sort of element of consistency over the last year.
I wanted to say something about the process, if there's a minute, which is, I think for all of us, when you first start the group, which for me was with Yvonne, 23 years ago or something, we're the veterans, there's that sense of inner critique or inner critic. What am I going to write? I don't like what I'm writing. I'm not writing, and it just shuts you down. And I think over time, we've really helped each other let go of that. It's just fluid. We write and we trust each other. And I think it really has taken away that inner critic, which has been a phenomenal gift for all of us.
So true. So true.
One of the things, every single one of you that spoke reminded me of a story that I could tell that I hadn't thought of. Like Anne, when my German relatives served me something sausagey that I couldn't eat, I just ate the roll and hoped no one would notice there wasn't anything in it. And each one of you reminded me of a story. So probably you all give ideas to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And plus it creates an atmosphere where new things come up that you hadn't thought of or that you hadn't thought of in a long time. And then just
sometimes we even write some of the same, not the same way, but we write the same thing. Sometimes it's a whole couple of words or lines that are just the same. We're not even talking to each other. It's kind of
like a psychic connection. Yeah.
Or having the same prompt and then just seeing the wide range of responses that this prompt elicits from people. It's just fascinating to see that, how our minds go in so many different directions.
Do you actually write when you're on Zoom?
Well, in that 45-minute period, we, mute ourselves and go inside and write, and then we come back together.
I see.
Yeah, it transferred very well. I mean, this was, of all those things that went from real life to Zoom life, this just transferred very well because, like Yvonne said, it was the same format. Plus, Aino could join us from far away, and in those cold, terrible snows, there we all could be still together. We didn't have to trudge out, be outside, so that was good.
A lot of the Zoom writing workshops we've done have basically been prompts and then writing, silent writing. But even though their people are in different places, they still feel that fellowship of writing with a group.
Right. Exactly.
It's just pretty cool.
It's very special. And it's very intimate, and it's very tender. Yeah, it's good.
I'd like to Zoom with people and we all clean our house at the same time so that we feel like there's. Does anyone else have any questions? I mean, maybe it's even about starting a writing group of their own. And Mickey said, you are all so descriptive in your writing. I saw, heard, tasted, and could smell your stories.
Some more than others.
Right. Some more than others. Saskya, what ocean did you body surf?
Well, yeah, I grew up in California, so that was, on the coast of California.
And Barbara and Yvonne, I think you both have pictures of your mothers over your shoulder.
Oh, that's right. That's good. Thank you for recognizing and remembering her.
I just guessed.
It wasn't planned, but I thought, oh, that's perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we have 10 minutes till the next event, so we could keep chatting if anyone has any other questions. I think it's really fun also for people to see you guys talk to each other. So
somebody asked a question about examples of the prompts.
Oh, good. Yeah, good question.
I could say a little bit, and other people can too. I know when we first started, we had very simple things with Z, like I remember, or I don't remember, or before or after. But we've done things, I know when I've done the prompts, sometimes I've taken lines from New Yorker short stories, fiction, and just put them 10 lines or 10 titles of a short story, or pieces of poetry, or lines from songs. So we just anything, and you can put together 10, or sometimes we've had as many as 15 prompts. It's hard to choose. And then we choose one. And when people are inspired, they might do a story that includes all of them. We never know how that happens, but somehow it's a one integrated story with 10 different prompts in it. So I hope that answers part of your question, whoever asked it.
So do you put up 10 prompts and then you all pick the same one, or you can each, or you just pick one of the? Oh,
we just go with whatever sparks, whatever speaks to us at the time. Or sometimes none. Sometimes people come in, I really want to write about this today, and they write about that instead.
Sometimes people write about it.
Sometimes we just have one prompt, and then everybody goes from that, and we see where we end up.
But we've also had people write something about every single prompt, which is kind of interesting, like these short little pieces. So.
And I know for me, I felt like whatever the prompt is, my intention was always to chronicle the pandemic as the year went along. So I often tried to connect it to what my experience was in the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that it's very special to have all of you who are in the group and have, that close trust and relationship read together. So that was very enjoyable. Thank you so much. So everyone, we have another event starting in 10 minutes, and it's the same link. So you can hang out, you could run to the bathroom, get a cup of tea or vodka, and you could just stay and chat. You could also stay, now that you've done your reading, you could go for the vodka, or you could just stay here and chat with us. But we will again start the next event in 10 minutes. The next event is a group reading on the theme of social justice.